Gamers, today we are going to be doing another guide, this time an English guide. So I've made quite a few English guides, but I feel like this one needed a little update because there's some development that's been happening, and I think this is probably maybe the best English build that we've ever had. There's obviously a lot of different things you can do with English, but I felt like this one is probably the one that's safest and just the most solid all around. Now, with that being said, I am recording offline. For some reason, I don't have internet right now. Like, they're experiencing some problems, so I've decided to just record a guide, and hopefully everything goes well. So here we go. So this is going to be English 1TC aggro guide, but more economical version of the usual English builds that you've seen, and there's some little twists to it. So the first thing that I've started doing recently, that I've seen like Mista do like over a year ago, but then it kind of went away. I'm not sure why people stopped doing it, but I started doing it again recently, and I found it to be really good. So the first thing you will do is, the moment the game starts, you're gonna obviously put your villagers on the sheep, and then you're gonna take 2 villagers and build two farms in the back of your town center. So not to the side, not to the left, right, front, always to the back from where your opponent is. So you don't want to build farms here, because if you get attacked, they're the first ones to get attacked. You're gonna go up to 7 villagers. Your scout's gonna go around and scout, and then you're gonna build a house and then a mining camp for the goals. You're gonna go 7-3. Now, usually you don't want to be building houses on the side where your opponent might be coming from, because you might build a tower later on. So if your opponent is going to come from like this direction, then you're going to build a tower here later on. So try to build a house on the other side. So the reason why you build these 2 farms, by the way, if you look at the resources, I got 26 wood left, and I already built a house and a mining camp. So I don't need any more wood. So you would usually just chill with like 100 wood as English at this point. So I figured, like, if you throw down 2 farms, look, I already got 50 food from each farm, right? By the time I age up, I'm gonna be saving like almost 2 sheep worth of food. So the sheep food you will have later is gonna last you a lot longer. You do not have mill for the extra English bonus, but it doesn't matter because your farms are cheaper and you don't need the extra wood, so it's worth it. Once you have 7, you can also put 8, by the way. 8 is fine too. If that's easier for you, like this one could have been on the food to age up a bit quicker. Let's say you have 8 on food right now, 3 on gold. The next thing you want to do is you're going to be aging up with 3. Now, why don't we age up with 4? You might be wondering. I'll explain that in a little bit. But the next villagers that come out, after you have these guys on food, you're going to rally them onto the 1 wood line, the closest to the, or the 1 wood closest to the first wood line. And you're shortly after that, you're going to be building lumber camp here. Now, why 3? Well, this build doesn't rely on rushing your opponent super fast. Most English aggro builds, the way we've all played them before, where like you age up, you immediately make a barracks as you're aging up, and you just go. Now, this is not really a meta anymore at the top level. Like, some people still do it, but in my opinion, it's not really good. I'm gonna pause right here just to explain this. The reason why it's not very good is, if you do that, age up with 4 and then build barracks and push, and you do damage, that's great, right? But if your opponent is good enough to defend that first few units without taking damage, you fall behind quite a bit economically because you have no gold for your upgrades. You're fully committed to producing units early on. So what the build that I'm going to show you is still going to attack very early. You're still going to put pressure, but you're going to have so much economy behind it that you will have more units later on. So example, I'm just going to throw random numbers. I haven't tested this. Like at 10 minutes, if you do the old school English rush, you're going to have, I don't know, 25 units. With this build, you will have like 36, 37, and all eco upgrades as well, and military upgrades. So it's like, it's quite a big difference that scales quite well with English because of the farms and because of the units being a lot cheaper than producing cavalry. So, now we have, we had 5 on food. This guy's building a mill. The reason we're building a mill is because I want to get wheelbarrow and also just to boost these 2 farms. So now when I build a mill, these 2 farms will be gathering faster from the English bonus. And then the rest, we're just going to rally onto the wood. When these 3 guys finish building, we're going to put them back on food. The 3 guys on gold will stay there pretty much until we get all the upgrades. Now, why do you not build with 4? Well, because we're not relying on pushing super quickly, so the extra like 10-15 seconds that the age up will complete faster will not impact our build too much. And having 1 villager on this building for like a minute and a bit building it will cost you like 50-60 resources that we would want to use somewhere else. So the mill is completed. Make sure you have enough spots for farms. And we're going to be adding farms depending how many sheep you found. So, what does that mean? Oh, there's the wheelbarrow, by the way. I got 150 gold. I insta wheelbarrow. What does that mean? Well, now I have a good amount of sheep, as you can see. So I can delay my farms quite a bit. If I was on only like 2-3 sheep, maybe I would already start adding a farm here and there. So you don't want to wait until you run out of sheep completely and then add like 10 farms. You want to slowly add a farm here and there whenever you have extra wood. So remember that. It's very important. Because if you wait until you run out of sheep and then you build a bunch of farms, you will have no food income for like 30 seconds, which is not great. Now, still got 5 on food. Rallying everything onto the wood, and these 3 again will go back onto the food. So you might be wondering why 5 on food when you need only 4 to produce villagers constantly. Well, what I like to do with English is, depending which civs you play against, I'm gonna queue up 2 longbows and just push across the map. So if you're playing against French, this is not a good idea because they're gonna have a knight and they're just gonna dent you in, right? So this is not something you want to do. If you're playing against, you know, other civ that might have early units or early production, this is not something you want to do. But against most civs, you can just produce 2 longbows and go across the map. And the funny thing is, this will accomplish exactly the same thing that the old school spearman longbow will do. You just put early pressure. So if you're playing against an Abbasid, or you're playing against a China, or whoever, like whichever, HRE, even making only 2 longbows will force them to make units, will force them to make a production building and make units, and that's all you're looking for with these 2 first longbows. If you can get a villager, that's crazy, like it's crazy good for you. If you can't, if they start producing units, you can commit and try to kill a villager, or you can just walk back. The moment you see them producing units, you can just walk the 2 longbows back and not lose them. The next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to get the next economic upgrade, which is going to be double broadaxe. We're going to have 15-16 villagers on wood, so this upgrade, getting it nice and early, is going to be very good for eco. Combined with wheelbarrow, your wood income is going to be looking really, really good. And you can see I'm playing against an AI, so I got a decent amount of sheep. I probably got like 13-14 sheep, so I'm not going to be needing to transition to farms for a while, but like I said, depending how many sheep you have, slowly add farms to your economy. So now I'm adding barracks. So what is the plan right now? You can see I haven't been producing units for a while, and I am pushing out with 2 longbows. Well, the plan is to make sure your economy is set up nicely, so then you can start your unit production and you basically never stop. And that's kind of the goal. The goal of English, and the way that it's played, the way that I like to play it, is you don't play English to build rams and push your opponent and kill. You play to mass units, to force your opponent to mass units, so you're both stuck in feudal, which is where the game is good for you because you have longbows. No other civ has longbows. And the greatest thing about English, so you can do stuff like this. You can see, like, I'm picking off a villager against an AI, right? And sometimes this will happen, and then you just walk it back. You just run home, because now the enemy will make units. You just go home. Now, what is the benefit of English staying in feudal? Well, most of the civs in the game are worse than English in feudal, specifically in prolonged feudal, as I like to call it, because of longbows and because of food. So let's say me and this AI are fighting for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, everything is great. But then at 25th minute, the AI runs out of food, and this is where the advantage for English comes through. If you've been trading, not losing battles badly, if you've just been trading, the enemy will run out of food, and you have farms. So once you have 60, you know, you have 8, then 16, then 28, 24 farms, your food income is positioned like right next to your TC. It's safe. Meanwhile, your opponent would have to go like on the boar over here, on the berries, on the deer, and they also have to build towers. Every time they go there with villagers, they gotta build a tower to protect it. So they're investing quite a lot. Their villagers are moving around, and eventually you will have better food income. And if you're still producing units, opponents producing units, their production will kind of halt for some time, especially if they're going farms, and that's kind of where your strength lies. You want to play to try to deny your opponent's food as much as you can. So if I was playing against a real player now, for example, I would probably start off my push here at the wood line, try to pick off a couple of villagers. Maybe when that's secured, I would rotate and maybe try to make a tower here and try to deny these 2 deer packs, because that is like a crazy amount of food, right? And if you effectively manage to deny these 2 just with your units, you will win the game. So I think a lot of people, especially in lower leagues, are playing English completely wrong in terms of, I've seen a lot of replays where people go, they get a wheelbarrow, maybe double broadaxe, and then they get +1 damage, and then they get siege engineering immediately. And what they do is they sit here, stop making units so they can make a ram, and then they make a ram and they push, and it's kind of doing damage, and they make a second ram, they push, and the opponent just runs them down because English has not been producing units at all. This is not the point in the game you can make rams. They're too expensive for your economy, okay? So when you do want to make rams, it has to be much, much later in the game. But this is another thing that people make a mistake of. They think you have to make rams to finish the game. If you have units all around your opponent's base, you're denying every resource. Why do you need rams, right? They're not gathering, they're not farming, they don't have wood. You don't need to destroy the TC to win the game, right? You can just secure around their base, you can just rotate around, deny the food sources, and they will leave eventually because they're just AFK watching you, you know, just kill stuff around their base. So you don't need to make rams too early. Now, once I got double broadaxe, the next upgrade I got is horticulture. You can see I have it already. So you go wheelbarrow, double broadaxe, horticulture, +1 range attack, +1 range armor. Then I usually like to go bloomery and fitted leatherwork, and then I go siege engineering. So siege engineering, most of the time you will not need super early because you simply cannot support it. Now, if you look, we went from 2 units to now we're fully producing. We're fully producing spearmen and longbow. Now we got 10-4, and around this time, 7:30, 7:45, you can move out finally. Or if your opponent is being greedy and has like no units for some reason, you can push out earlier. But this is a good amount of units where like few knights are not going to do anything to you, or you know, whatever army. And this is where you can bring a villager to also build a tower. Now, I wanna regarding villager count, once I get you can just leave on 3. Don't make it too complicated. Just leave 3 on gold forever. I like to have 15 or 16 villagers on wood. That will be enough for you to constantly produce your longbows, your spearmen, and eventually make another barracks. If you eventually want to go rams, you will need 20, 22 workers to be able to produce units constantly and make rams at the same time. So without dropping your unit production, which is very, very important. And you can see me slowly add farm here and there to my economy. Now, remember, your goal isn't to literally kill your opponent right now. If you deny the opponent food, they cannot produce anything. So one mistake that I've seen a lot of people do is they play against HRE and they're like, oh my god, I gotta destroy their TC or they're gonna age up. Right? And that makes no sense. They can age up without a TC. They can kill you without a TC. Someone is drilling something, I'm sorry for that. So what you should do is just deny their food. If HRE is rushing castle, let's say, and they go for burger palace, that's great. They're gonna have men-at-arms and they're super strong. But if they don't have food, they can't produce them. So if HRE has like chapel here, let's say, and they got farm, and they got berries, just put your longbows here. They cannot farm, they cannot get berries. There's no men-at-arms, right? So you gotta stop thinking like, I gotta destroy buildings, to I gotta destroy food economy. Without food economy, the opponent cannot make anything. So woodline is also a good place to deny if you're playing against any, I would say, non-HRE civs, because if they don't have wood, they can produce archers. If they can produce archers, then they can only produce, what, feudal men-at-arms, depending what civ they are, and maybe spearmen, horsemen, knights. But then if you have spearmen, longbow, you'll be able to deal with that. So you can see now I'm just rallying units. I got all the upgrades. Like right now, like I said, you can add another mill, start producing more farms. And eventually, now this is completely up to you, but the meta is where if you play against a knight civ, you do want to keep producing spearmen. Okay, so if you're playing against Rus or against French, you do want to keep producing spearmen because you simply need them. But against the other civ, once your eco is set up nicely and you have about 18-20 workers on food, whether on sheep or on farms, you want to start adding men-at-arms, and you want to add a second barracks as well. Why second barracks? Well, you're gonna have too much food income. If you look, I'm already producing from everything, and my food income is 800 per minute, which is more than I can use. So I'm gonna add a second barracks in a moment. And let's pretend that this AI wasn't French, but it was something else. Let's say Abbasid. You can now start producing double men-at-arm at the same time, plus longbows, which is quite good. Now, I want to mention something. Another very common mistake with English that a lot of people do is they run out of sheep and they're like, oh, I guess I'll go berries, or I guess I'll just run out on deer on the map. Sometimes you can do that, but if the opponent has cavalry or knights and like horsemen or knights, and you went here, then you get harassed and you lose villagers, then you gotta run back home, then you gotta build a tower. And if you think about it, if you built a mill here and a tower, why not just make farms? Berries are a lot worse than farms, and they're worse than sheep. So berries you should not go at all unless you severely screwed up your economy. So if you ever run out of sheep and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go on berries, or I'm gonna go on deer, what you should do is say, next game I should add farms earlier, depending how many sheep I had, right? So that I don't need to go on berries and don't need to go on deer. Like, this is the #1 strength of English, not having to go on berries, not having to go on deer. All your economy is very hard to harass. That's the strength of it. So if you start going on berries or deer, you're basically exposing your civ to be weak to harasses, which is the #1 strength of English. So you can see I'm adding some more farms here. In a moment, I think I'll add some more here. Another thing that happens is if you start transitioning to men-at-arms now, double men-at-arm production, you will naturally start gathering or having more wood, which makes these farm transitions easier. And also, once you get the ram upgrade, it makes making rams a lot easier, because suddenly you have excess wood because you're not producing spearmen. It's not a lot, but it is some wood being spent. And at the time of you starting to produce men-at-arm, I would suggest you take a few villagers from food and go up to 5 or 6 on gold. So you want to have 5 or 6 on gold. You want to have, let's say, 16 to 20, depending if you want to make rams on wood. But first have like 15, 16, right? And then a lot of on food, 6 on gold, and then you can revert back to wood. So another really strong part about this build is once you set up 16 to 24 farms and you're still in feudal, you can age up to castle while producing units. And this is one of the strong things as well about English. There will come a point where if you play the game long enough, you're playing, you're harassing, you're attacking, eventually you can like cancel 3-4 men-at-arms and you will have enough resources to age up, which is really good, because then you can make, what's it called? King's Palace, which is another TC. Then you can upgrade all your units and you just continue attacking, and that's pretty much how you play English. So right now, if you look, I'm kind of demonstrating it here. I've haven't been paying attention, but basically I went from here, I attacked the wood line, I went here, killed a villager on gold, went around, villager on berries, a villager on stone, checking the deer, and then if you rotate back, your opponent is not gathering anything, so you're just winning the game from that point on. There's no rush. Like, a lot of people play the game like, oh my god, if I don't, oh my god, it's 10 minutes, and if I don't kill them by 10:30, you know, they're gonna have fucking tanks. They're not. If they're not gathering, they're not gonna have anything. And the moment their sheep disappear, or the moment they gather all the sheep, no matter what civ they are, that's when the real problems start for them, because they need to go to the berries or they need to go to the deer. And that's kind of your major striking point. After that, once when you age up to castle and onwards, the most important thing to do is to upgrade the units you have. So if you got 20 spears, 40 longbow, what do you upgrade first? You upgrade longbows first, right? Then you upgrade spears, then you upgrade +1 weapon for your longbows, then you upgrade +1 ranged armor. If you have a mix, right? If you have 10 spears, 10 men-at-arms, and 30 longbows, again, you go longbows first. Most of the time, you will go longbows first unless you lost them all for some reason. But if you have 10 spearmen or 10 men-at-arm, like, what do you get first? Well, that depends. If you reach castle and your opponent is a cavalry civ, you probably want to upgrade spears, and you probably want to continue making spears. If you're playing against a civilization where you won't be making spears, and you have 10 men-at-arms, 10 spears, then just upgrade men-at-arms and skip upgrading spears for now, because you don't need to, you don't need to waste resources upgrading units that you're not going to be using too many of. But once you get your King's Palace, you get your second TC, your economy is already set up, you can get your eco upgrades as well, don't forget those, especially the food upgrade for English. It's very, very good, very, very important. And as you're aging up to castle, make sure to put at least like 15, 16, 70 workers on gold after, because you will have a lot of upgrades you need to get. You need to get veteran upgrades, you need to get +1 attack range, +1 ranged armor, eco upgrades, maybe monastery for monks to get the relics. You're gonna need to get like men-at-arm upgrades, the iron chat upgrade, which is now I think 350 gold, which is quite a bit. So yeah, that's kind of it. As you guys can see, I cannot play the game. I don't have internet, like I said earlier, for some reason. So I just decided, let's record some guides. Funny thing happened. As I was actually, this is my second game that I played, and I didn't lose the first one, but as I was playing the first time against an AI, my game actually crashed. So I had to do it twice, but yeah, that's it. That's kind of how you play English. That's the new, I guess, version of English. It might not seem a lot different, but it is a lot harder to play against, and it is just way, way better, because you have so much economy behind it that opponent usually cannot sustain. And that's it. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Check me out on Twitch. I'm probably live right now. There's no part if you're watching on Twitch because I'm not live. But thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something new. I'll probably be making 3 more guides for Chinese 2TC update guide into Spearman Zuganu. I'll be making the Mongol Deerstone trade guide, and probably an updated Rus guide. If you want to see anything else other than that, let me know in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe. That's it. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Peace out.